Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is spoil. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or the ways that we use this verb. The first way you are likely to hear spoil used is to mean to diminish or destroy the value or quality of something. So with this first definition, we might be talking about sort of hurting or harming something, a tangible object, something you can touch. But sometimes it's used with intangible things or things we cannot touch. So you might hear someone suggest that someone's fun is being spoiled. It's being lessened, the amount of fun they are experiencing, for example. A second way you hear the verb spoil used is to mean to become unfit for eating. Many people will use this verb to talk about milk and that kind of the idea of it going bad. It reaches a certain point where it's no longer safe for us to consume. A third way you'll hear the verb spoil used is to mean to harm the character of a child by not having rules or by giving them anything they want. So perhaps you've heard this. I know when I think of it, the stereotype I have in mind sometimes is that grandparents will spoil their grandchildren. They can sort of do anything or eat anything at grandma and grandpa's house. Or maybe they're always getting gifts. So that idea of giving them anything and everything they want. A fourth way you might encounter the verb spoil is to mean to treat with great or excessive kindness and or generosity. So the third and fourth definitions here are sort of connected in talking about how we're treating other people. But with number four, many times the idea here is it's being done for a short period of time. I know I've heard people say, oh, I was spoiled on my birthday. My friends did this for me, or my family did that for me. And really what they mean is my friends and my family were incredibly kind and generous. You should know that spoil is a regular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing to form spoiling. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb, spoil, ends in a voiced L sound. So when we add the ed ending, we're just going to make a D sound, and we're not going to add an extra syllable as we say it. So the past tense and participle forms of the verb should sound like this: spoiled, spoiled. Okay. Now, there's one phrasal verb we should discuss, and that is to spoil for. And you might hear this used to mean that someone is extremely enthusiastic. They are very eager. They really, really want something to happen. Let's look at an example sentence. He's been spoiling for a fight all day. Okay. Maybe you've encountered someone like this, a classmate, a coworker, who's maybe like looking for a conflict, for some type of disagreement. That just meaning they're really enthusiastic. They're hoping someone might respond to them in a way that leads to a fight. And that's, I think, a phrase you might encounter a little more commonly, spoiling for a fight, an argument, a conflict. It many times is used with something that has more of a negative association with it. Now let's use our verb of the day, spoil, in a couple different verb tenses. Today we'll practice the simple past tense and the simple future with be going to. Let's start with the simple past tense. We use this verb tense to talk about completed actions that occurred at a known point in the past. Many times in the simple past tense, we see time signals, words like yesterday, or phrases like last week, last month, last year. We might even see a specific date noting that something is in the past. But not every simple past tense sentence is going to have a time signal, so don't worry if you don't see one. It might be implied as part of a conversation or as part of a longer text. To make simple past tense sentences, our structure is going to stay the same no matter what our subject is. In the affirmative, or when we're making positive sentences, we'll start with our subject and then we're going to use the ed form of our verb since this is a regular verb. Here's an example sentence. The opposing team spoiled the seniors' final home game. The college basketball season, I should say, here in the United States is sort of wrapping up. So many teams are having their final games. And for many seniors, people who will be graduating, it's their last time to play certain games at home or at their home facilities. And so many people, they want to win, right? But if the other team beats you, right, you've kind of diminished or destroyed that final sort of memory from playing in this specific location. Now, if you want to make a negative simple past tense sentence, again, we're going to use the same pattern and the same structure no matter what our subject is. So we'll have our subject, then we'll have did not, and then the base verb. So notice I am not using the ed form of the verb here in the negative. Now, I know I said did not and then the base verb, but you might also hear the contraction didn't. That's in my example sentence here. She didn't spoil the ending when she told us about the movie. So, particularly with movies that maybe are kind of a mystery, we might say whodunit, right? Like who's responsible for the thing that happens in a movie. You don't want to know the ending of it because that might diminish or reduce the amount of enjoyment you have as you watch a particular movie. So here we're talking about someone who did not diminish that value. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple past tense. To do this, we start with did, then we have our subject, and then we have our base verb. So, an example of this might be, did your grandparents spoil you when you were growing up? So there's that example again of kind of giving someone anything they want, not having any rules, really just focused on having fun. And to answer this question, I would probably say yes. I had fun times with my grandparents, and I'm sure they let me do things my parents wish they might not have. So, but now let's talk about the simple future. Today, we're going to focus on making sentences using be going to. That's really common with plans. You might occasionally encounter it with predictions as well. And with the simple future and be going to, we do need to pay attention to our subject. Okay? So our structure will be to have our subject. If the subject is I, then my next part of this is going to be am. Right? If my subject is you, we, or they, then the next part would be are. And if my subject is he, she, or it, is would come next. So I have my subject, then the form of be that matches, and then the rest will be the same. We're going to use going, to, and the base verb. Let's look at an affirmative example. We're going to spoil our dear friend on her birthday. Right? So here, we're talking about someone making plans, right? Things that this person really enjoys, things they find special, maybe unique to celebrate their big day. Now, if you want to make a negative sentence in the simple future using be going to, again, we're going to start with our subject. We'll use a present form of be, whichever form matches our subject, but then we need to make sure to include not before we use going to and the base verb. Here's another example. This food isn't going to spoil in a day. Okay, so here, that might be along that idea of kind of a prediction. Someone might be sort of suggest it's okay if we put this in the refrigerator and eat it tomorrow. It will not become unfit to be eaten in that single day. Lastly, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future. To do this, we start with the present form of be, whichever form matches our subject. That subject comes next. Then we use going, to, and the base verb. Here's another example. Is this bad news going to spoil your mood? Right? So it's that kind of idea of diminishing how good of a day you're having, the quality of your day. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb spoil. And the first word we're going to look at is just the noun form of this word. So I have the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation. Many times when you hear the noun spoil used, it's to refer to goods or things that have been stolen or taken forcibly from a person or a place. And because we're referring usually to multiple things, it's most common to see the plural form. And you can see that in my example sentence here. The thieves escaped with their lives, but not with the spoils of their crime. So maybe I'm describing something where people broke into a building, but it was sort of detected, right? Even though they started to take things, maybe they had to drop it and run before they were caught or discovered, right? So they're okay, but they no longer have the things they stole. Another related word you might encounter is the noun spoilage. This is the action of spoiling, and it's really common, I think, with food, medicines, other things that have sort of a limited shelf life, that things that are only good for a certain period of time. An example of this might be canned shrimp is being recalled over spoilage concerns. I think this is semi-recent news. A particular brand of shrimp in a can has made some people sick, and so now they are trying to take it out of the market, have people get rid of it, so that no one else becomes sick from this. The last word we're going to look at today is the adjective spoilable. You might see that suffix able, and so I, again, always encourage my students to think about able to be, and I can look at to my root word here, so able to be spoiled. So an example of this adjective in a sentence might be, if your power goes out, move your dairy, meat, eggs, and other spoilable food into a cooler with ice. This is a common piece of advice, particularly during natural disasters. So this isn't where maybe there's a little bit of a test and your power's going to be out for a few seconds or a few minutes, but when you think it's going to be out for a much longer time, this could be a way to preserve your food and keep it safe to consume. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.